both surprised by the way we looked. The years have changed us too.
Hello again. Welcome to another episode of Gung Ho. It's May 9, 2025. Last night I decided to do something different. I've been writing a book about my time in the Marine Corps, which I'm just about done. Have one more story to write, and I've been encouraged to write something about my experiences as a defense attorney, and that's what I'm going to talk about. Some of that. Somebody or a lot of people said I was a mob attorney. I'll explain why they thought that. But I'm going to start with this. When I came back from Vietnam in 1968, I had orders to report to the Second Marine Division, and I'd be shipping out again into the Mediterranean. But I had recently been married before I went to Nam, so I went to Marine Corps headquarters, and I walked in and I drove down there, brand new Triumph, walked into headquarters and said, I don't want to go to the Second Division. I don't want to go overseas again. They looked at me and he wrote me new decisions, this major. And he sent me to a place called the Landing Force Training Command, which was down in Virginia Beach. And it was great duty station. I mean, I had a year and a half to go. And I wound up, I was training, first I was training Navy SEALs. And then they moved me over to a major's billet, and I was running the Landing Force Training Command, which is like a big college, ongoing teaching officers about amphibious landings and things like that. I was running the whole thing. I had a really big office. I had 2 secretaries. Anyhow, while I was there, the FBI came on base one day, and they were recruiting Marine Corps officers. So they came to me and they said they wanted me to apply to be an FBI agent. And I said, but I'm not a lawyer. And they said, being a Marine Corps officer trumps being a lawyer, but you have to pass a written test. So I did. I passed the physical, I passed the written test, and I waited. And I was going to go into the FBI. I don't know if that really would have worked out, but I was going to do it. And a lot of Marine officers, some of my friends, did go in the FBI right out of the Marine Corps. Well, sometime later, I got a letter from J. Edgar Hoover. And, dear Mr. Giannini, this will acknowledge receipt of your inquiry concerning the status of your application for employment with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Your desire to become affiliated with the Bureau is most appreciated. I regret to advise you, however, that we are unable to take appointment action in your case at this time, and it is not known when we might be able to do so. And this is an original letter signed by J. Edgar Hoover. So I wrote back to J. Edgar Hoover, and he sent me another letter, basically saying the same thing. This is the original from J. Edgar Hoover. All right. I went on. I finished my tour of duty at the Landing Force Training Command, and I had to make a decision. Decision was stay in, go back to Nam, or get out and do something else. I decided I couldn't go back to Nam. My luck had run out. I couldn't do that again. So I decided to go to law school, and that's what I did. All right. So I got a job right out of Brooklyn Law School with the Criminal Division, Legal Aid Society. But I got to go back now. My cousin, Tony Parada, who was with the Gambino crime family, told me straight out several times, the reason you weren't appointed an agent is because of me, because he was with the Gambino family. That's for sure. In fact, I wound up representing him in federal court, uh, and his son too. Uh, Anyhow, but let's go back. When I was, let's see, about 6 years old, my dad moved us out of Canarsie. Now, Canarsie was a really bad place to grow up. It was, I say, almost all Italian, some Irish, and one black family. It was a dead end town. There was Rockaway Boulevard ran down the center. It was surrounded by swamps. All the kids were like, you know, then no one was going to get through high school. They were going to get killed. They were going to overdose, and this all happened. They were my friends. My dad moved us out when I was about 6. However, uh, I was having a hard time in Nassau County, going to school, and I told my dad, I don't want to finish high school. I want to go into the Navy. So he said to me, you don't know anything about work. Why don't you go to work? So he reached out to my uncle, Mike Castellano. He has nothing to do with Paul Castellano, but Mike was an associate of the Lucchese crime family. So he told Mike, put Joe to work. So Mike put me to work. Mike um, had a landscaping business. He landscaped homes. He had a maintenance business. All his business was in the 5 towns. I don't know if that's Nassau County, but 5 towns is probably the richest towns in the United States. That's where all his business was, and he hung out there a lot. And so I started at 14 working for him, but I had to now leave my home in Nassau County and go live in Brooklyn. I lived with my grandparents, and Mike had an apartment in the same building, so I spent a lot of time with my grandparents and with Mike. This went on for many years. Mike was 4 or 5 years older than me. They called him Pretty Blue Eyes. Very, very handsome, well built, uh, intelligent. Uh, uh, he could do anything he wanted to do: shoot a rifle, shoot a bow, bowling, painting, sculpt. He could just do it. He didn't have to be, nobody had to teach him anything. But, all right, so I started hanging out with him when I was like 14. And after a while, he started taking me around to different places where the Lucchese people were meeting. He would take me to Gefkin's, he would take me to the Lion's Den, he would take me to the Bamboo Lounge. Now I was like 16, and we would go in at night, and he would just tell me, go down and sit at the end of the bar, and he'd have a meeting. And he introduced me to all the good fellas. This is my son. This is my nephew, Joe. So I was like 15, 16 years old, and I'm being introduced to all the good fellas, the Lucchese people. And this went on for a long, long time. And then I went to college, and as soon as I graduated college, I enlisted in the Marine Corps. Then I went to law school. Then I went out to work. Back then, they had a program with legal aid where you could actually go to work in the criminal courts without being admitted. So I started working in the criminal courts in the drug part without being admitted in 1973. I got admitted in 74, and in 75, I went out into private practice. My dad encouraged me to do it. But even before I did that, I was getting calls from people in the Lucchese crime family. They wanted me to represent them. They were willing, whatever. What had happened is a really big indictment had come down. I think they called it the Gold Bug indictment. Eugene Gold was the district attorney of Kings County. He indicted I don't know, maybe 100 or more people. They had put listening devices in different places in Brooklyn. One of them was in a trailer that the Lucchese people were using for meetings. So a lot of people got indicted, including the head of including the head of the crew that I knew. Paul Vario got indicted. Anyhow, uh, right away, I'm getting calls, and I got a call one night, and I just started private practice, and I got a call from Big Al Visconti. He said to me, "I want to meet with you." All right, so we met. Big Al was big, and I got to know him very well. We made an arrangement. He said, "I'm going to bring you cases. You charge whatever you want. But when I get indicted, it's on the cuff. And you do it for nothing." So that was our arrangement. And we met on a regular basis, maybe 2 or 3 times a month. We would go out to dinner. Al he started always with broccoli rabe, and he would tell me, this is the way it was. He said, "I will tell you what you need to know and nothing else. You will never be on a wire. You will never be in a club. We'll meet. I'll tell you what you need to know, and that's it." And then we met until he got killed. We met for over 15 years, and we became good friends. And finally, he got indicted, and I tried the case, and I won it. So that was like how I became on a regular basis doing mob cases. I also started doing murder cases. I got on the murder panel, drug cases, but I always had a history with the mob. And Big Al was always there. And one day we walked out of a restaurant. It must have been 1990, 91. And we walked out of the Queen restaurant on Court Street, really good Italian restaurant. And he said to me, "Oh, one more thing. We have an intra-family problem." Intra-family means a problem within the family, different factions. He said, uh, "It's serious. It's about people that want to align themselves with John Gotti and people that don't." He says, "And that people are going to get killed." He says, "And he said, I might not survive this. I might get killed." Well, he was right. He did get killed. And what was happening is there was a faction in the Lucchese crime family led by Vic Amuso, and then there was another faction. I guess Paul Varro was part of that, and they wanted to go with John Gotti. Vic Amuso hated John Gotti, and Vic Amuso turned out he had these 2 detectives working for him, Eppolito and Capoletto, something like that. This is all true. And these detectives were actually working for him and killing people. Big Al got killed. One of the captains, Bruno Faciolo, my client, got killed. Larry Davis got killed. And Bobby Borriello. And now Bobby Borriello was with John Gotti. But when Bobby got killed, I had become very good friends with Bobby Borriello, and I was representing him on a civil RICO case. We were living in the same neighborhood, and I represented one of the guys, Ray Bracco, big drug case, and I basically got him off, and he introduced me to Bobby Borriello. So we were friends. He would come by with his son, and we'd watch the fights, and we'd have some beers, and Ray would be there, and we were friends. We were good friends. Then, let's see. In April of 1991, I got a call from Bobby Sunday morning, I think it was, and he said the FBI had been harassing him and his wife, and an agent had showed up at his home. He was not there, and when his wife opened the door, the agent was there and he had his weapon in plain sight. Bobby was really angry. So he said, call him, call him up, tell him to stay away from me and my family. I did. And what happened is I did it. I made the calls to FBI. I told them, leave Bobby and his family alone. Your agent showed up at his front door, scared his wife with a weapon. I did all of that. And I called him back and I said, I did it. Um, he actually called back one more time that day looking for me again. He spoke to my wife, Nikki, and then right after that, he was murdered. And this is a story about, this is, I guess, in the Daily News about me calling up the FBI claiming they were harassing Bobby Borriello and his family. He was shot in his driveway, and this was April 1991. Big Al was killed in 1991. Bruno, I think, was killed in 1991. And Larry Davis was killed. They were all killed. And I didn't know at the time, why would Bobby Borriello be killed? He was driving for John Gotti. He was John Gotti's bodyguard. Who the fuck would want to kill him? Well, I found out later on it was Vic Amuso. He hated John Gotti so much that he had Bobby Borriello killed. So you might say, yes, I was around mob people. I did a lot of work for the mob, and whenever I was introduced, I was a friend. They would introduce me as a friend, and that's all they had to say. He's a friend of ours. Joe is a friend of ours. He's an attorney, and that's all there was to it. Big Al, my friend Jackie knows the story. Big Al got indicted by a special prosecutor, Maurice Najari. And Maurice Najari put him away. And I think this is the time that Big Al actually forged court papers releasing himself. And it actually worked, that he was released from prison. They caught up to him, put him back in, but then it turned out that Maurice Najari, the special prosecutor, had done something wrong, had suppressed something that was exculpatory, and Big Al was released. So Big Al, like I said, was really, I thought maybe a genius. He knew his law, and he became like, a good source of business for me. He introduced me to the Persico people. We took a ride one time upstate to visit with Teddy Persico Jr. He had been convicted for conspiring to sell a small amount of cocaine. I mean, maybe 7, 8 ounces. And this judge, Leslie Crocker Snyder, gave him 20 to life. She was a real bitch. I didn't try the case. Bruce Cutler did the case. The sad thing about that case was that Teddy Persico Jr. had been offered a plea of 3 1/3 to 7. And he turned it down and went to trial, and she gave him 20 to life. The minimum back then on that type of drug case was 15 to life. She gave him 20 to life. So Big Al says, we're going to go see Teddy Persico Jr. We ride up to, we meet him. And what happened is Teddy's father, Teddy Sr., retained me to go back into Supreme Court. He had a felony and knock it out. Get rid of that felony so he could be resentenced without that felony. And Big Al had this idea that the plea bargain was violated by Kings County DA's office. And I got on the case. And guess what? I got the felony dismissed, done away with. It's gone. Felony. So he had to be resentenced now because when he was sentenced the first time, he had a prior felony. Now you would think that I would do that. I would go before Leslie Crocker Snyder for the resentence. The most she could do is reduce it to 15 to life. That's all she could do. That was the law. But this guy by the name of Ira London, he was already a big-time lawyer or a big lawyer when I went into practice. In fact, I'll talk about him later. He got Teddy Persico Sr. Convinced that he knew the judge, Leslie Clark Snyder. So he went before her to have Teddy Jr. resentenced. Well, she basically reamed him a new asshole. It didn't work. And she resentenced, the same thing. 20 to life for conspiring to sell 7 or 8 ounces of cocaine. And I know, because I represented him later on other things, that he did, I think, close to 19 of those years. He got a little good time off, but he did close to 19 years because of that Rockefeller law. Back then, just as I started to practice, the law came into effect in 1973. If you had an ounce of heroin or an ounce of cocaine or an ounce of methadone, the minimum sentence, if you got convicted, was 15 to life. How's that? 15 to life. For 1 ounce of cocaine or heroin or methadone, A1 felony. That's the minimum sentence for a person indicted for a murder. And they put away probably thousands of people that all they had was an ounce or a little bit more, and they went away. That's how I started out in the drug part, doing that. One more thing about Big Al, and we'll end it with him, I think. In 1989, a cop was killed in Flatbush. It was all over the papers. It was on TV, and I was at home, second home out here, and me and my wife and my sister Flo were watching the TV, and they're talking about how this cop got killed, and they're saying that the perp grabbed the weapon away from the cop and killed him with his own weapon. And I said, that is bullshit. And they both got really mad at me. That can't happen. How could someone take a weapon away from a cop, kill him with his own weapon, and his partner's right there? No, bullshit. My phone rings a couple hours later, and it's a drug dealer that I've been representing for years. They called him Dynamite, Panamanian guy. He had a Club Dynamite on Flatbush Avenue. He calls me up. He had my home number. He was a source of a lot of business. He said, if you ever go to Panama, they're going to have a parade for you. That's how much business I do. He said, you hear what happened? He said, they arrested Ronaldo Rayside for killing this cop. I said, Ronaldo? He said, yeah, you know Ronaldo. He was in your office. He came by your office one Saturday morning. You pulled up in your Mercedes. He was there with some other people. One of his friends was about to be indicted for 2 murders. His family's going to retain you, and they did. So now I'm on this case, a murder of a police officer. It's murder 1, and but there's no death penalty. And they're making out this cop, an anti-crime cop, is a hero in the crack war. It's big news, it's big news, it's big news. Okay, on one of the meetings with Big Al, he says, tell me what you've been told about this case. So I told him the police version. He says, that's wrong. He says, you are dealing with 4 off-duty police officers that are dirty. go back and look at all your discovery with that in mind. And I said to him, Al, how do you know that? He said, I got it from the horse's mouth. I said, come on, Al, how do you know that? He said, I got it from detectives working on the case. So with that information, he was absolutely right. I mean, I had all the forensics, the crime scene, the autopsy. It all fell into place. That it was not two cops on duty. There were four out there off duty, shaking people down for drugs and guns. That's what it was. So the headline should have been, off-duty officer kills partner during shakedown. That should have been the headline, but they couldn't go with that. So they framed this Panamanian guy. They framed him for murder one, and it was on the front burner, and they crucified me. They wrote it off. Geraldo had the wife on his program. They made a big thing out of this. And when I said to the press, on one occasion, my client is not responsible for what happened to that cop, they mocked me. They mocked me. That was the first and last time I spoke to the press. No one talked to me, no one approached me until after the verdict. Mike McAlery came up to me. I'll talk about that case. But so over the years, I was always doing mob cases. Some of them were very, very interesting. And I'll go into that, and I'm going to write about it. And now I'm good friends with Jackie Russos, and a lot of things he knew Big Al while he was in prison. Am I right?
Yes, certainly.
What'd you think about him?
I was a good man. Good man, good legal head too. Good
Anyhow,
good jailhouse lawyer.
So I'm going to keep going on with this, and I'm going to turn this into a memoir and talk about different cases, different experiences. That's it.
I saw